26.9 is one of the more massive patches that we've seen in a while, so let's get you guys set up with 3 of the best solo carry champions for every single role. But first, some hard truths. YouTube is built for the algorithm, not your LP. That means clickbait titles, junk food topics, and stretching simple tips for watch time. We're part of that system too, just like every guide and YouTube channel. And because every video is randomly surfaced to you as a singular guide and topic, advice often contradicts what you just watched. No context, no plan, more confusion. On our website at SkillCapped, however, we're free from all that, allowing us to focus on what actually matters. We teach in the most efficient way to really rank you up fast, with the same premium editing and challenger level coaches you see here, just without the algorithm's hoops. Start with our essentials courses for every role, updated for season 15. These are meticulously planned step-by-step guides that builds your fundamentals in the right order. Once you've finished essentials, move into the advanced courses. Deep dive wave control, advanced mechanics, the proven bronze to diamond climb paths, and literal world record jungle clears for meta junglers, all structured so that lessons stack instead of contradict. While you follow these learning paths, we also release our popular challenger walkthroughs, new sessions every week showing how to abuse the best meta champs for your elo. Supported with an AMA section below each video, which we always respond to. We back it with a Climb 5 Divisions improvement guarantee while you're actively using SkillCapped, plus a 30-day refund change of mind policy on top of that, so there's literally no risk. Stop trying to mix and match random guides and start following a structured path far away from all the noise. Click the limited time discount link below to join SkillCapped today. So kicking off the top 3 for top lane in 26.9 is going to be Vayne. With all the item changes being issued for this patch, we think a ranged top like Vayne is going to benefit massively. First off, the new starting items that Riot are adding are more greedy options, so if players are experimenting with the items and they are not taking Doran's shield into Vayne, then she's going to be loving that. Secondly, there's the new boots that players will want to experiment with called Gluttonous Greaves that provide you with Omnivamp but no defensive stats, so if players are experimenting with those boots and are not taking steel caps, then Vayne is just going to decimate them. Vayne in general plays very well into most of the highly picked top laners in meta, as she's one of the few champs with an overly positive win rate into Garen. She likes playing into Darius and Mordekaiser as well, and she's always a solid pick into the majority of tanks. One tank who can be more annoying to play into though is Malphite because of his attack speed slow from E. If you don't completely roll Malphite early on, then come mid-game teamfights, he can just single you out with his R and make you a lot less useful. Teemo is the one other matchup that can be a pain to deal with because of his blind from Q, so either champ is a good ban to consider. The meta build for Vayne is super OP because it makes her durable while still maintaining good DPS potential as you rush Hexblade, go into Essence Reaver second, and Stormrazor third. Dusk and Dawn is being changed this patch so that it now provides a heal on its passive proc in exchange for less AP, less attack speed, and less base health, and one champion who really shouldn't mind this adjustment at all is Shen. Someone like Kayle may suffer more from the loss in damage from Dusk and Dawn, but Shen getting the heal that also scales off of bonus health should be really nice for him. Shen rushes Titanic Hydra as his first item, and it provides 600 health, so he's going to benefit from that bonus health scaling better than most champs running Dusk and Dawn. The Titanic into Dusk and Dawn core has been so powerful on Shen because it actually gives him a ton of DPS potential, so he can really excel with the lead and dominate his opponent in the 1v1. You only need to auto attack twice to consume all 3 of Shen's Q charges, since the passive from Dusk and Dawn applies on hit effects and additional time. So passive from Dusk and active from Titanic Hydra adds for some really crazy upfront burst that allows you to capitalize on catch plays way better whenever you are ulting into a fight. The fact that Nocturne is a highly contested jungler in meta gives you even more reason to prioritize Shen. Just using R on your Nocturne whenever he's diving in during the mid to late game is so easy to do and extremely powerful. Shen always has a more difficult time dealing with champions who are majority spell based, since his W loses a ton of value, so banning out Ornn or Mordekaiser is good value. The best solo carry tank that you can play for solo queue right now by far is Ornn. Ornn has been one of the best performing solo queue champions in general for a while now, and this is without players even optimizing him. From the build into summoner spells, the average Ornn just doesn't run what's best, yet he still overperforms, which is super crazy. So starting with the build on Ornn, stop rushing Sunfire or Hollow Radiance. Macro, who's one of the best solo queue Ornn players in the world, is super adamant that Sunfire and Hollow Radiance are trash items for Ornn, and the data even backs this up. More Ornn players have started rushing Unending Despair over the past patch, and it's got a pretty good sample size now, so it's clear the item is actually really strong and not just being skewed by only Ornn one tricks picking the item. You just don't need the wave clear from Sunfire or Hollow Radiance on Ornn, and Bami's Cinder is a component that is super trash for early on in lane, so going Unending Despair is just all around the better option. And if you're laning up against an AP top laner, then you can instead swap out Unending Despair for Kaenic Rooker. So it's an Unending or Kaenic rush, and then whichever item you don't rush is generally best second, unless you're into an enemy team who's entirely one damage type. Something else that is super underrated on Ornn is going Ignite with Teleport for your summoner spell combination. This gives you a ton of presence early on in lane, especially if you're going up against an enemy who does not take Teleport. In this case, what you can do is try to make the lane volatile early on on by trading your health for the enemy's health, get them to around half HP, and then use teleport to heal up, come back to lane, and you'll have incredible kill threat with your ignite available and the health advantage. In regards to Ornn's matchups for solo queue, Fiora is always a good ban to consider because her mobility and W makes it really difficult for Ornn to be the aggressor in the matchup. So back in the top 3 for jungle and a staple solo carry pick for a few patches in a row now is Nocturne. Briar nerf this patch gives even more priority to Nocturne, as Briar and Noc had been 2 of the best performing junglers in recent patches. What we really like about Nocturne is that his game plan is a lot more simple than most other junglers. You don't have to feel the need to force plays early on with Noc because you know that when you get your level 6, regardless of what happens before then, you have the ability to flip the game in your favor in an instant. Just being laser focused on clearing your jungle as efficiently as possible and reaching 6 as early on in the game as you can is the easiest way to be impactful on Noc, and our updated jungle clear course for Season 16 will really help you out with that, especially for the lower elos where players aren't as cognizant of a Nocturne being in the game and are less likely to respect his level 6 spike. You can pick up so many easy kills that other junglers have a way more difficult time getting. The only hard counter to Nocturne is going to be champions that can dash away from him easily or CC him easily when he dives in. With this in mind, it's never a bad idea to prioritize your ban on a meta support who has strong peel power, and right now Lulu and Melio are 2 of the most played in meta. Your core build on Nocturne is the exact same in every game as you are going Hexplate with Stridebreaker. For the Keystone, you do have the ability to swap between Lethal Tempo and Conqueror. A simple rule of thumb is that into squishier, higher mobility champions that you'll have a harder time auto-attacking a ton, just go Conqueror, but into tankier, low mobility champs, grab Lethal Tempo. A more niche jungler who has been really strong for all of Season 16, who we think should benefit even more from the 26.9 changes, is Zyra. So Zyra has potential to be insanely good this patch with the introduction of the new Keystone rune called Deathfire Touch. If you guys played the game back in Season 6, then you'd be familiar with the rune name as it used to be in the game. What Deathfire will do is it will burn enemies when you deal damage to them, and in theory, this should work incredible for Zyra because she can apply damage to enemies constantly in fights with her plants. There could be a world where Electrocute just remains better for Zyra jungle, but Deathfire is something that you'll definitely want to try for 26.9. It's going in the sorcery tree, so your rune page would consist of Deathfire, Axiom Arcanist, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm, while Haste and Cut Down are for secondaries. The standard core build for Zyra revolves around a Liandry's Rush into Shadow Flame second. Rune page and build aside, Zyra has been one of the most powerful junglers all season long because of how insane her clear speed is. Zyra can finish a full clear in less than 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so this gives her a huge window before Crab spawns where she can either gank for free or invade. A good ban to consider when playing Zyra right now is Nocturne, as his ability to dive right on you in fights doesn't bode super well for a champion who wants to sit back and play longer extended fights where her plants can do a lot of work. So coming off of some buffs from last patch, and one of the best AP junglers that you can play for 26.9 is Lilia. Lilia's clear speed was increased last patch, and it's helped her out a bunch as she ended up gaining over 1% win rate. There are few junglers with as much teamfight impact as Lilia because of all the AoE CC potential and consistent damage output she has. Landing those multiple man Rs gives you so much solo carry power, and if you can set up around objectives and sweep vision before they spawn, your impact on Lilia will be immense. Where Lilia thrives the most is when she can be sitting in Fog of War and tossing out her E and choke points where the enemy team needs to walk to contest an objective. Because of the range on Lilia E, you can very easily catch enemies out in those choke points and take them out before they can even come close to contesting the objective. Your build on Lilia is going to consist of a Liandry's Rush into Riftmaker second, and then it's situational from then on out. It's going to be assassin junglers with strong burst threat who Lilia hates playing into the most because she wants slower fights where she can kite champions around with her movement speed, so banning out Talon or Rengar is good value. So a mid laner who has already been great in recent patches, who has the potential to be even better for 26.9, is Xerath. The change that will influence Xerath is Arcane Comet becoming stronger on longer range champs. In order to gain the max damage from Comet, you will now have to be 750 units away from your opponent. So someone like Malzahar probably doesn't like Comet at all now and just swaps to the new Deathfire Touch, but Xerath should still like Comet quite a bit because he's able to stay outside that 750 range very consistently. If you are 750 units away from opponents, then the damage from Comet is actually higher than last patch, so this is looking like a buff to Xerath on paper. First Strike is also just super good on Xerath though, so we'll have to keep track as to whether Comet is actually the more optimal keystone to take now, or if you just continue running First Strike. Here are 2 different rune pages that you can try on Xerath for this patch, as in theory, Comet will be more optimal for you when against another ranged champion who can poke you, but First Strike is great value in melee matchups where you can always get the first hit off. Matchup-wise for Xerath, it's champions who have very easy access onto him who's going to struggle against the most, so Fizz and Yone are 2 champs he really hates playing into, and either neither of them are a good ban. Your build on Xerath is going to consist of Luden's Rush into Horizon Focus second and Rabadon's third for the majority of games. A mid laner you're going to want to keep an eye on for 26.9 who could be a great pick with the new static Shiv is Katarina. So Shiv is being changed this patch so that it will now be a hybrid item that provides 40 AD, 40 AP, 30% attack speed, and 4% movement speed. Its passive is also now going to proc on hit effects, which in theory has incredible synergy with some of Katarina's other items, as Nashor's Tooth, Kraken Slayer, and Blade of the Rune King all have on hit effects. It's simply going to come down to whether or not Shiv lands in a strong spot or not, but it looks really promising on paper for Kat. The new Shiv passive also now counts as an energized attack and doesn't have a cooldown, so the more you are moving and attacking in a fight, the more Shiv procs you'll be able to get off, and because Katarina has her resets and can be constantly dipping and diving around in fights, she should really benefit from the item being changed to the energized mechanic. This is where our brand new build site is going to be super helpful for you guys, because if Shiv ends up becoming optimal on Kat, then we will have her build page updated with a full analysis from our challenger players. In theory, something like a Shiv Rush into Kraken second and Blade of the Rune King third seems like it could work well, but there could be a world where you'd still want Gunblade and Nashor's Tooth. Builds aside, we think Kat will also get indirectly stronger for this patch due to Storm Raider's Surge and Deathfire Touch being added as runes in the sorcery tree. Everyone is going to want to be trying out those new runes, and which champions are the ones who are most likely to be taking them? Mid lane mages, and immobile mages are champions that Kat loves playing into. Katarina's priority ban in meta right now is pretty straightforward, as she hates playing into champs with point and click CC, and because Lissandra is now meta, she's a really good ban for Kat. A mid laner who has moved up to being one of the best over the past few patches, and rounding out the top 3 is Lissandra. After her buff, there's just so much value to having Lissandra in your champion pool for mid right now, even if you just pull her out as a counter. The champ plays incredibly well into any more mobile mid lane picks, so think Yasuo, Katarina, Akali, Fizz, and Yone. The point and click CC that Lissandra has makes her so consistent, as your playmaking potential and ability to single out the most fed member on the enemy team and make them useless in a fight is second to none. The gank assist from Lissandra is insane as well, so if you really want some free elo, then duo up with a jungler who has strong gank threat early, just camp mid lane and enjoy your free LP. Liz has a lot of adaptability when it comes down to builds right now, as you can opt for the standard burst build of Malignance, Storm Surge, and Shadow Flame, but a more utility focused build of Blackfire Torch into Rocket Belt works incredible as well. If you're against a very squishy enemy comp and can just one-shot everyone, then go with the Malignance build, but when playing into tankier teams where you'll need more extended fights to win out, that's where Blackfire Torch value shoots up a bunch. The only matchups that Lissandra doesn't like playing into are those longer range mages, so with Xerath being pretty contested in meta right now, he's a good ban to consider. So one of the best ADCs for solo queue, who has become way stronger lately due to players discovering an optimal build, is Ashe. For the longest time, players were either rushing Kraken or Yuntal on Ashe, and although both items are still viable, Hex Optics is proving to be the more optimal default option in the majority of games. Hex Optics Ashe players are winning about 3% more than Kraken users, while holding a very similar sample size of games, so it's pretty clear that the item is just flat out really strong for Ashe. You rush Hex Optics, and then it's vital you go into Phantom Dancer second, since Hex Optics doesn't offer up any attack speed at all, so the 65% you get from PD is super valuable. And then Infinity Edge as your third purchase is going to be standard for the majority of games. Something else that is really helping Ashe right now in the current meta is the fact Seraphine and Melio are both S tier supports. Ashe has incredible synergy with both those champs, so if you really want to play an OP solo queue duo for 26.9, then those are a few of the best. The Melio Ashe duo across all ranks in 26.8 had a win rate of 56%, which is just absolutely insane. What's really nice about Ashe too is that she's very blind pickable for lane. Ashe doesn't have any ADC specific matchup that she hard loses to, so you can instead use your ban on whichever meta dive champ you hate playing against the most, and right now Nocturne or Zed will be two of the higher value bans due to their presence in meta. A staple in the ADC top 3 for most of Season 16, who should remain a very powerful pick for 26.9, is Jinx. There aren't many changes in 26.9 that should heavily influence the ADC meta, so we think Ashe and Jinx will be right back up there as two of the most OP picks. Jinx is just the perfect solo carry ADC because of her ability to completely pop off in a team fight with legit 1v5 potential. The constant resets from passive giving you that bonus movement speed and attack speed makes it so that as long as you score that one takedown in a fight, anything is possible from then on out. We were kind of expecting for Riot to nerf Hex Optics for 26.9, but because they left the item untouched, it's a big factor as to why both Ashe and Jinx are top tier right now. Hex Optics into Phantom Dancer second and Infinity Edge third is the standard core build to run on Jinx. The best value ban for Jinx in the current meta is going to be Nocturne, as his dive threat makes it really hard for you to be consistently impactful in team fights when you've always got to worry about getting dove on. We tend to stay away from mentioning bot lane mages when covering our top 3 for ADC, but one champ who we think has the potential to be absolutely insane for this patch is Brand. So Riot is adding a new rune to the sorcery tree called Deathfire Touch, and this rune is going to have great synergy with Brand Brand because it adds yet another burn effect to his loadout. Comet should also be a bit less valuable on Brand because of the fact you now need to be 750 units away from opponents when it hits to deal max damage. And then on top of this, if the enemy team has dashes, the proc from Comet can be inconsistent, so Deathfire Touch should just add a lot more reliability for Brand in 26.9. The rune page would look the exact same as before, but the only thing different is that you'll be swapping Comet for Deathfire Touch in the Keystone slot. Build-wise on Brand, you will want to rush Blackfire Torch into Rylai's second and Leandri's third. Once Brand hits this 3-item core, his teamfight impact becomes absolutely godlike. This is why playing Brand in bot lane is so much better than mid or support, because you get the bonus gold from completing the ADC quest so that you can hit these very key items earlier on in the game. Brand wants his poke to stick in lane for him to be most effective, so banning out a support like Soraka who can just heal up all your poke damage is something to consider. On the rise over the past few patches and joining the top 3 for support in 26.9 is going to be Seraphine. Seraphine support has been trending up for a while now as she got buffed towards the end of last season, and now that we've seen 2 of the highest priority enchanters being Nami and Karma hit with nerfs, it's allowed for Seraphine to gain in relative strength. Of course, Ashe being an OP ADC in meta is another big reason for her success, as that duo is one of the best in the game right now. Seraphine being able to abuse one of the most OP 2-item cores in the game for support is also a huge reason for her strength, as Echoes of Helia into Whispering Circlet is insanely powerful. Echoes of Helia was changed this season so that you gain more value from the heal if you are dealing lots of damage in fights, so it's great on Seraphine because of the fact she can be outputting more damage than most other enchanters due to her Q and E poke. Whispering Circlet just lets you spam your abilities in fights because of all the mana you get, so it makes Seraphine especially good in those longer extended fights. Supports with instant catch power are the ones Seraphine players tend to struggle against the most in solo queue, so banning out Pyke or Blitz is good value. The whole idea with Seraphine right now is that you just want to get to her 2-item spike unscathed, so limiting the amount of volatility in lane is ideal. A support who has seen a nice rise over the past few patches due to receiving direct buffs, and our second solo carry support of the patch is Rell. So Rell did just get buffed in 26.7, and as a result of those changes, she has become the best melee support for solo queue. Something that should give Rell even more priority for 26.9 is the fact that we likely see Kai'Sa play rate shoot up a bunch due to the static shift changes. Every ADC main is going to want to be trying out Kai'Sa with the new build, so having Rell as a champ you can pull out with her is really valuable. Rell in general is such a powerful support for solo queue due to the fact she has some of the best snap engage for any support. When you have your flash available with Rell, she is one of the best at instantly catching out a target and locking them down for an extended duration. So if there's a fed melee champion on the enemy team, then you can single them out and make them completely useless in fights when playing Rell. The best build for Rell is going to revolve around a Zeke's Rush into Locket or Bandle Pipe second, and then you have options for the item upgrade. Celestial Opposition is the cookie cutter pickup that will provide you more durability, but if you don't feel like you need that added durability, you can go Solstice Slay for better engage power. Champs with really good peel power are who Rell is going to have the most difficult time playing against, so banning out Melio or Janna is good value. And then to round out the top 3 for support in 26.9, we've got the jack of all trades being Thresh. Thresh has been one of the best solo queue supports for a while now, as his win rate is up above 51%, which is actually really high when you consider that Thresh is a more difficult support to pilot optimally. Thresh's play rate is also super elevated right now too, up above 13%, so it's not like it's just one tricks playing him and boosting that win rate. What's so great about Thresh is that you can pick him into pretty much anything and know that you'll be able to find ways to impact the game. Whether it be through catching a key target out with your hook and saving your fed ADC with a lantern, Thresh's kit allows him to adapt extremely well to the state of the game. Something that a lot of newer Thresh players tend to tunnel on too much is always playing up and looking for that hook. Being able to flip the switch and play back more as a peel bot in a fight is really important in unlocking Thresh. For instance, if your ADC is extremely fed and you need to keep them alive in fights to have any chance of winning, then you shouldn't be playing away from them up in the front line and looking for a hook unless you know for certain that they are in no danger of being dove on. So this is something that gives Thresh a pretty high skill ceiling, but makes him extremely rewarding once mastered. Build-wise for Thresh, most players are really undervaluing Bandle Pipes as a rush item. It's pretty easy for Thresh to proc the passive, so if you are with a traditional ADC, you should be rushing Bandle Pipes and then grabbing Locket as your second item. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to be all for this one, guys. Those are 3 of the best solo carry champs for every role as we head into 26.9. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.